Okay, for sure, one of the craziest crime cases, like stranger than fiction, that I've done on my podcast is the Candy Montgomery murder. And that is where a woman in 1980 brutally murdered her ex-lover's wife, Betty Montgomery, in her laundry room. She used an axe and she hacked the woman 41 times. 41 times! And was found not guilty by reason of self-defense. And I just can't believe it. Let me tell you guys. Okay, so it was the late 70s whenever Candy Montgomery and her husband moved to the small town of McKinney, Texas. Now, McKinney was a lot smaller, too, back then. And they start going to a church, and they're one of them people that plug into their small town church. They go every Sunday, every Wednesday. All their friends go there. It's one of them churches where you like do book study. It just becomes your life, okay? So through that, they meet Betty and her husband. When they met, Betty was just having a really hard time with life. She was pregnant with her second child. Her husband, Alan, worked out of town a lot. And I would say she just wasn't really emotionally stable. So after a while of living in McKinney, Texas, Candy is getting bored, y'all. She's bored and she wants somebody to have a really hot and heavy sexual affair with, okay? Candy and Betty are kind of becoming acquainted because they have daughters that are the same age. And so, you know, they get together, they let the kids have play dates, they kind of become friends, yada, yada, yada. And at the same time, Candy decides during the co-ed softball league that summer that she was getting the hots for Betty's husband, Alan. Ow, ow. Nothing like a church softball co-ed league to spark an affair. So Candy just straight up comes out to Alan and is like, hey, I want to with you, boy. And he was like, wow, really? And they weigh it out heavily. They like make lists of actual lists. They set times to get together and discuss the prospect of having an affair, yada yada. Ultimately, they're like, yeah, let's get this thing going, girl. So they start having an affair. Mind you, the only reason that Candy wanted an affair was because she wanted to have hot and heavy sex with somebody. And from what I understand, Alan did not deliver. Just like I'm not delivering this eyeliner evenly. But for whatever reason, Candy keeps sleeping with the man anyway. Okay, so remember, Betty's pregnant. And during the affair, Betty eventually has the baby, and she starts having a lot of problems, like just she had some physical problems, like she had severe neck pain, a lot of elements, but the main thing was she really struggled with postpartum depression and her husband working out of town. So in an effort to help his wife, Alan changes jobs and he starts working local, and he also decides to end the affair with Candy. Okay, so remember, Betty's pregnant. And during the affair, Betty eventually has the baby, and she starts having a lot of problems, like just she had some physical problems, like she had severe neck pain. So all in all, the affair lasted 6 months. And even though Betty was sometimes suspicious that her husband had been having an affair, she didn't know for sure that he was, and she had no idea it would have been with Candy anyway. Nobody knew. Life picks right back up. Betty and her husband attended marriage counseling, as well as Candy and Patrick. Even though Patrick had no idea anything was going on, they didn't really have any marital problems specifically. They were all just trying to repair their lives and move forward. So one night that summer, Candy's daughter had stayed the night with Betty's daughter. And Candy and Betty's daughter both attended summer camp that year. So while they were at summer camp, Candy needed to go by and get her daughter's bathing suit from Betty's house because she'd left it there. Mind you, let's talk about Betty's day. Betty had been having an incredibly hard time. For one, Alan had to go out of town that morning, and she hates when Alan goes out of town. And then two, unbeknownst to anybody, Betty actually had suspected that her husband was having an affair, and she for sure thought that he was having an affair with Candy. So when Candy shows up and knocks on the door, Betty is actually in her robe still. And Candy's like, hey, I just need to get the bathing suit, blah, 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 blah. And then Betty hits her with the fact that she suspects Candy's been sleeping with her husband, Alan. And Candy in no way, shape, or form had any idea that Betty suspected them. Help. At all. Not at all. She was shocked. She was so shocked when Betty asked her. I don't know what I'm doing. Candy's version of events, see, I got it fixed. Candy's version of events are that as soon as Betty asked her if she was having an affair with Alan, Betty became unhinged and she stepped into the other room and she actually grabbed an axe and came at Candy and was attacking her and telling her that she needed to stay the F away from her husband, Alan. And in this attack of Betty on Candy, Betty accidentally hits Candy's toe. I mean, Candy says it wasn't an accident. Betty was attacking her with an axe and she cut Candy's toe with it. Naturally, Candy is now in fear for her life. Not only did she have no idea that Betty even suspected Alan was having an affair, now she's got his damn wife attacking her with an axe. So what does Candy do? Obviously, she struggles and fights Betty for the axe and overpowers her, right? But then, in an unexpected turn of events, Candy gets the axe from Betty when Betty loses balance. And what does Candy do? Does she run out the door with the axe? She take a head start while Betty's on the ground? No. She rears back and she hits Betty in the head with the axe. She slices her in the back of the head with the axe. She said the blow did not render her unconscious, though, or dead. In fact, she was still fighting with Candy for the axe. So Candy, y'all, she just let her have it. She's funny because Candy describes it as her last bit of strength. She said her and Betty kept fighting over that axe after she'd hit her in the back of the head. And with Candy's last bit of strength, she struck her 41 times. That's a lot of strength left. Like, that's not a little bit of strength left. But so she strikes her 41 times and then she leaves. Candy panics. She's got blood on her. Her toes throbbing because it'd been cut, and she just bolts. She goes straight home, and she puts her shirt in the sink in cold water because, you know, if you soak something in cold water, the blood will come out. She takes a shower. She puts the same shirt she was wearing when she killed Betty on. Now, she did change her jeans. She said she got away with wearing the same shirt because it was the color burgundy. And then she said that when the crime happened, she was wearing flip-flops. So she switched those out and put on tennis shoes. And then she had to rush up to the church summer school because the kids were doing a summer school program that day. And she wanted to be there on time. I bet Betty wanted to be there on time too. Before going there, Candy wanted to secure herself an alibi. So she ran up to the local Target. And she said that she was going there to get watch batteries, but she didn't even go inside. So she drives up to the Target and then she drives up to the school or the church camp. And she tells them that, oh, I'd gone and talked to Betty earlier. And then I went to Target. So that's kind of like this weird fake alibi she's establishing for herself. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure that Candy had picked up her and Betty's daughter. So side note. All right. Alan has been calling his wife, Betty, all day long, and she has not been answering, which is very, very, very unlike her. And when she doesn't answer all the way up into the evening, he actually calls his neighbor to go check on her. Of course, when the neighbor went over there, he found Betty in a pool of blood in the laundry room, and he could hear their baby crying. The baby! Candy left the baby asleep in the crib all day and all night without alerting, or not night, all day and all afternoon without alerting anybody. That's so bad. That's so bad. Obviously, how could she explain knowing, right? I don't know, maybe like, oh, I told Betty I'd take her daughter home for her, and then when I got there, she was dead. I don't know, something like that. I don't know, just creative thought. Anyway, so the neighbor tells Alan, unfortunately, like, yes, Betty's dead. The baby's fine. She's just been in her crib all day long. She must have been killed earlier in the day. Yada, yada. They call police. No idea that Candy actually is the one who killed Betty. Alan hangs up with the neighbor and he calls Candy and he's like, hey, I need you to keep Alyssa a little bit longer because somebody killed Betty. Like, I don't know if she's been shot, but she is dead. I'm on my way back home now to figure things out. Can you just watch my daughter for me? She's like, oh my God, absolutely. That's horrible. She's already here for a sleepover anyway. No problem. Anything I can do for you. It doesn't take police too long, though, to kind of put some things together and figure out that, like, for one, Candy was the last person to be with Betty. For two, Candy had been sleeping with Betty's husband. Even though they ended the affair about 7 months ago, it still happened. Betty was probably upset, and they confront Candy, who adamantly denies. She's like, no, wasn't me. Police are like, we don't care. We're pressing charges on you, right? Her defense is so wild, you guys. So despite saying, I don't know, wasn't me, whenever she gets charged, Candy ultimately pleads not guilty by reason of self-defense. Okay, so she says, yes, I did go to Betty's that day. I was greeted with her. She was wearing a robe and she did not seem in her right state of mind. In small talk, and then out of nowhere, she blurted out, you had an affair with my husband, right? He cops to it, but explains it was past tense. It'd been over. Everything was fine. She says Betty calmly exits the room and then pops back in with a freaking 3-foot axe. What does Candy do? Candy actually approaches her and said, it's okay, Betty, because Betty looked sad. Betty looked sad holding an axe after figuring out that this lady had been screwing her husband. I don't think she's sad. I think she's pissed off. Betty's explanation was like, I was just trying to play it cool. Like, I was just trying to stay calm and get out of there. So she walked up to her and said, it's okay, don't be sad. Whatever, Candy. I think Candy's a liar. Anyway, I already told you how she did it. So then essentially they get into the struggle. Candy kills her. Candy leaves, blah, 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 blah. We went all through that. So remember, they're in court. And here is Candy's defense for this. Candy said that before she actually struck Betty with the axe 41 times, and they were going back and forth struggling, they were arguing, okay? And during the argument, Betty shushed Candy. And Candy said that when she was a kid, her and her mom were in the emergency room. She'd like broken her arm or something, and she was crying hysterically in the emergency room, and her mom shushed her. And the trauma of what was going on in the situation with her and Betty just took her back to that trauma that happened in the ER when she was a kid, and she just lost it. She could not help it, guys. Her mom shushed her when she was a kid. She could not help but kill Betty. Like, come on, be reasonable. The jury was composed of 9 women, 3 men, and they were out for deliberation less than a day. And guess what, guys? Not guilty. They found her not guilty by reason of self-defense. Is that crazy to you? That's crazy to me. This is one of those cases, like I said, stranger than fiction. And there's so many twists and turns throughout the whole thing. Like, the way that the affair started was so mature. Not to mention, like, you know, Candy threw Betty a baby shower while her and Alan were having an affair. That's tacky. That's tacky. Candy's husband, Patrick, stood by her the entire trial, the entire investigation and trial. And they did eventually get divorced, but it had nothing to do with her killing Betty. They got divorced for other reasons, and she actually got remarried and just went on and lived her life. And she changed her name to Candy Wheeler after she got married. So anyway, I just want to share this with you guys, just a little synopsis of it, because it just blows my mind every single time. Have a good day. This is Betty Gore, by the way, and this is Candy Montgomery. Betty Gore, Candy Montgomery.